And now I'd like to introduce someone who needs no introduction, Goat Hill Phil of Goat Hill Pizza.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, and thank you for all you do, and thank you for putting this evening together as you have so many evenings that we've shared. I can't tell you how impressed I am by the number of people that are here tonight in the face of what's going on not too far away from here, and congratulations to you all for caring about what matters in our world. So anyway, so you'll remember last year, as we do every year, we have a countdown for the longest,
Be careful.
no, I'm being very careful. The longest living, the person who has lived the longest on the hill. Is that good, Joe? And you probably all know that Joan King was that person, nay Joan Bullard, and she is the living embodiment of the Karetoff family. And so she has indeed, and her family has indeed lived very long on the hill. And her family is a branch of the Molokan community, which moved to Potrero Hill, or came to Potrero Hill, perhaps sometime in the early 1900s, 1905, maybe 1907, having come from Russia. Did they come through Charleston, not Charleston, but through Texas?
Some through Houston, some through New York.
And some through Texas. Okay. Well, at any rate, let me introduce to you two members of that family, Joan's sons, who are going to lead us in a conversation about the Molokans on the hill. So, welcome to... You're going to have to give me your names.
Bob Bullard and Joe Bullard.
And Joe Bullard.
And it's the Karetoff family. Karetoff.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about your family. So why don't you introduce us to the folks that are in the picture right now?
Well, that's my great-grandfather, my dada, Alec Karetoff.
He's the start of the family in this on the hill.
Actually, he married Emma. Emma, Mom? He married Emma, and Emma Fadif's parents, Alex and Mary. This is going back since like 1907, so
you're permitted to.
Alex Fadif married and came over to Potrero Hill via Galveston, Texas, and they had 6 kids when they came. And Emma was one of the Alex's daughter, and married my great grandfather Alec Karetoff. And that's 3 of their 4 daughters in the picture, and my Auntie Mary, my grandmother Lucille.
Now, your grandmother is the one with the bow.
With the bonnet.
With the bonnet.
On the left.
Is Joan's mother. Okay. So, next picture.
Oh, here you go. You have control of the remote. One of the buttons is a laser pointer if you want to just go to the right.
Well, this is a new thing. Now, so this is Alec.
That's Alex.
And
Hold on, buddy. That's Alex and Mary Fadif. All right. That was all planned out, by the way.
We were gonna do this later, but we jumped right in.
Hi, everybody. This is my great-grandparents, Alex and Mary Kadif. They came, as Bob was telling you, from an area in Georgia with 6 children. Can't imagine how they afforded to do that, but...
And they came to Galveston, and they came at the time that Tsar Alexander, I'm guessing, was starting the Japanese-Russian War, the Russo-Japanese War, and the Moluccans are pacifists, right?
That's correct.
And so they wanted to avoid being made part of that war and came to the
They were
United States. Conscripted, yes, yes, yes.
But they had 6 additional children after arriving here. And they built the house that I live in now.
So this is the house at 811 DeHaro,
Rhode Island.
811 Rhode Island, that is the seat of your family
That's correct.
for the entire time
That's
they've been
correct.
on Potrero Hill.
That's
Yeah. Now, who do we have here? Hold on. Oh,
This is Mary Kadif and her daughters. My grandmother is the woman on the far right, Emma. She was a Kadif and then married my grandfather, Karetoff. So, and then these are her sisters.
now,
One of her sisters is Tuchalasha, just next to my mom's grandmother, and we lived at 811. My great-grandfather lived next door, and Tuchalasha lived next door, so we had 3 houses in a row on Rhode Island Street growing up.
With no fences. With no fences in between. So the backyard was like a park, and my children all have the benefit of growing up.
did you have a banyo?
But we did not have a banyo.
Most of the other, a lot
A
of the
lot
other
of the
families.
Russian families did.
So that's Dieta in front of his store on Rhode Island Street.
Now, this is one of the several Moluccan grocery stores on Potrero Hill.
That's correct.
Was this the feed store or a grocery store?
This
This
was,
is the one that was across the street from the Moluccan church?
no, this was 2 doors up from Chartres Grocery, that which my sister now owns and runs. And Dieta, which was Chartres Grocery growing up, and when my mother was growing up, and when my mom was a little girl, she never stepped foot in Chartres Grocery because we had the grocery 2 stores up. So although the Chartreses would come to our house on Christmas Eve and have drinks, my mom never stepped foot in that store until my sister owned it and she went in there for the first time.
But there were a number of stores run by the Moluccan community.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All through on Rhode Island Street in that area. There were stores on 20th and Kansas, Carolina. There was one up on top of the hill on Carolina Street, right above the Moluccan Church right there. Pop-in store. 22nd and Viejo, yeah. So anyway, so my dad owned the store right here, and that's a picture of a bunch of his buddies that the guy that he has his hand on is John Putoff? Yeah. And John Putoff actually ended up being a good friend of Dieta's growing up. He is much younger, but they were good friends through their life. And my Dieta lived next door to me.
That's your Dieta.
Yeah.
Which
is my great-grandfather.
for grandfather.
Yes.
And then, who do we have here?
Associates.
Associate, we don't know.
So my grandfather, he retired when he was 30 on Potrero Hill. And we really don't know how he got all that money to retire at 30 years old.
Now, isn't there a story that during Prohibition, he might have cut
Well, there was a lot of
some of that money?
there was a lot of back rooms inside the stores on Potrero Hill.
It's only a rumor. Yeah.
And that's actually taken in front of 887 Rhode Island Street right there. And that's 1914, that's Dieta and his wife, and I believe that's my Auntie Mary when she was a little girl right there. Dieta, I don't know if he owned it or if he was part owner, but there was a feed store on 20th Street where Atchison Pharmacy was, and he was either owner of that or part owner of that feed store, Dieta. Anyway, that's a story I remember as a kid. So I'm gonna let Joe tell this story right here.
Me and Bobby grew up next door to my great-grandfather. He was a very colorful guy, and we spent a lot of time with him growing up. But he was, later in life, little stories would come out about some of the escapades back in the day. But I was doing some research about him on the internet, and I found this a couple years ago. This was actually in the Oakland Tribune. Don't ask me why. But it says, in the course of a quarrel, supposedly caused by jealousy over a woman, Al Schubin at 940 Rhode Island Street, this was right up the street, Alex Karetoff was cut several times. He was stabbed by Mr. Schubin there. The date of this paper was January 7th, 1910. Giella married my great-grandmother, I think in December of 1910. And now, I've heard about these stories, but this was confirming it, that, there was actually, this is how he won his bride, I think. It had something to do with this day.
He actually went over to Fidif's house on Kansas Street, I believe. They lived on Rhode Island, and we went over to their house in his Sunday best courting, asking permission to court Mr. Fidif's daughter. And Mr. Schubin was upset that Dieta beat him to the punch, so he stabbed him. And that's how they solved things back in those days.
Now this is a classroom at
This is Sunday school.
Sundays.
And I don't know much about this picture, but my mother is in the front row. She's marked number 1 at the bottom.
Wrong way, sorry.
And my aunt, and that's my mother, and her sister, her little sister Pat, is there. And I think this is before the Malakon Church was built. So they had a Sunday school, and I think it was on DeHarrow Street someplace.
And I'm noticing these are all girls. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing that they also, like so many churches, have a pattern of teaching the men and the women differently? Or
I don't know. Before my time.
This is an incredible picture right here that Peter found on eBay. And this is a picture of the 800 block of Rhode Island Street taken from the northwest corner looking up on the east side of Rhode Island Street. And the first house on the left is actually the house that my mom and Joe and I and Beth and Mark and everyone else was raised in for 4 generations. 5. And the next house was Dieta's house, and then the next house was Chichalash's house. So those are the 3 houses that we knocked the yards down in.
The house next to Chichalash's house was occupied by the man that came to this country from Russia with my grandfather, Mr. Voronin. And they were 18 years old, and there were 3 young men that came together, and they ended up 2 doors away from each other on the hill, raising their families.
Now, did the originals married within the Malacan community? Is that accurate? Yeah.
The originals did, but Dieta had 4 Russian daughters, and not one of them married a Russian man. All of them married Americans.
The real Americanization of your branch of the
Yeah,
family.
absolutely. And it's, that picture right there has those 2 little kids playing in front of 811. It just makes me wonder if those are, you know, some of our relatives playing in front there.
This is Daniel Webster School. And I'm not sure exactly what year, but my Aunt Mary is in the center with the big bow. I guess my family wore big bows. Yes.
No, that's.
Right up with the bow, right there, right? Yeah.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Actually, my grandmother, who came from Russia, was about 14 years old when she arrived in this country, and she did go to Daniel Webster for a very short period of time, maybe a year, and that was the end of her education.
What year was that?
This picture?
Speaking of the mic.
My aunt was born in,
Had to be in the 20s.
huh? Yeah, I don't know. She was born in 1911, and she was probably 13, something like that in this picture, so in the 20s.
And that picture's taken in front of 887 Rhode Island, and that's the man on the left. What's his name, Mom? We don't know his name, but he's dressed really well. And that's Dieta next to him, and what I remember is Dieta growing up as a kid is how big his hands were. The man was, he was just huge. He was the biggest man that I remember. He chopped wood in the backyard every morning to heat up his chai on the stove, and he was just out there chopping wood, and that was 50 years before I was born, probably.
And that was his car.
And that was his car, and we're not sure, you know, who all the ladies are in the picture, but I'm pretty sure 3 or 4 of them are his daughters.
You know, Ma said that was his car, but one of my memories when I was young of Jella was he wasn't driving at the time when I was young, but he would say, "I need your mom. I need to get something." He would say, "I need your mom to take me to the store in the machine." He called it the machine. I'll never forget that.
The same picture.
That was at the beginning.
Yeah, that's the same picture right there from the beginning. And that's Auntie Mary, Aunt Pat,
Move the
and
mic closer.
that's Auntie Mary in the center, Aunt Pat, and my grandmother Lucille. And you can look at the dresses that they're wearing, and they look like they were made at home.
My mother passed away when she was 42 years old, suddenly, so none of my children knew her.
But this is typical Moluccan costume. Did you when by the time you were growing up, Joe, none of this, right? No.
I don't know if this was Malacan or this was
No,
just dress,
Sign
the
of
way
the
they
times.
dressed it.
And that's my grandfather, Joe Keegan, my mother's father, and my mother, and my Uncle Mike. And that's taken on the back of 817 Rhode Island right there. Handsome Irishman that just came into the family. And Again, that's Diana at a little bit of an older age right there with my mom and Uncle Mike in the picture. And that's taken in front of 811 Rhode Island Street. And at first I thought it was, there's Diana, his 4 Russian daughters and all of their American husbands and my mom and Uncle Mike. But then today when I started looking at the slideshow, I noticed that there's only 3 daughters in the picture. And so it's Auntie Mary took the picture, and then all of his other 3 daughters, and you know, we have all the other, Uncle Ralph and Charlie. And
I keep getting the wrong one on, the wrong button here. So, who?
So from left to right, or right to left, that's my Uncle Charlie and Aunt Pat, and that was the other one of the other's daughters, and then my Uncle Frank and my Uncle Ralph are in the back right there. The other, and below him is my Uncle Mike, and that's my great grandmother Babu, and that's my Auntie Olga, and that's Joe Keegan, and then Lucille to his right, and my mom below.
And we lived in that house.
She still lives in that house. That's 811 Rhode Island Street. That's the same house when we showed the dirt picture of Rhode Island Street, but now with a different set of stairs in the front of it, but the same house. And that's Joe Keegan and my Babu's wedding day in 1938 in at Mission Dolores.
And what did you call her?
She was my mother.
Babu.
No, but the Russian word.
Babu.
Babu.
That's what my son calls my mother, Babu.
That's the, so Babu and,
Babushka.
Babu.
Yes.
oh, it comes from, and Drayton.
Yeah. It's Mullican slang.
McKinley Square.
And there's Baby Park, as we knew it growing up, better known as McKinley Square on 20th and Vermont on the corner, and that's my mom playing in the park there. And then just to the right is my Uncle Mike, and that's on 20th and Rhode Island before 20th Street between Rhode Island and DeHaro was a street. It was just a vacant lot. There wasn't a connecting street there. And Uncle Mike playing in the lot there, with the view of the downtown, the Bay Bridge in the background. So interesting story about my Uncle Mike. When he was a little boy, Dad took him to see the Seals play at Seal Stadium, and my mom and her mother were sitting on the front porch, and this is how quiet Potrero Hill was then. They could hear the loudspeaker from 16th and Bryant sitting on 20th and Rhode Island, and the loudspeaker, the announcer said, "We have a little boy named Mickey Keegan who has lost his grandfather. Will his grandfather please come and get him?" You know, the sounds of the city, and that's how quiet it was on Potrero Hill back in the day. Hold on for a second.
What's the score?
And the Giants just tied it up, 4-4. So this is a picture of my mom at Patrick Henry in 1950, and I think what's interesting about this picture and talking about how people stay together that grow up in one neighborhood is there's a Lovren that's in this picture, last name Lovren. And growing up in Cub Scouts and going to Patrick Henry, there was the Lovren boys that we grew up with, another generation of them. And there's a Ruta Metkin in this picture, and she's a lifelong friend of my mom. And there's a Sisoyev in this picture, and there's a Leskatov in this picture. And these are people that are still in my mom's life today, and we grew up with their kids on Potrero Hill, and I think that's something really special about Potrero Hill. So, you got any comments on this one, Joe? So, and there's a picture of my brother, myself, me and my two brothers and my sister in both pictures. And the other one, that's with remember the young, handsome Joe Keegan? Well, that's him a few years later there in that picture right there. Just as handsome, but just with some silver hair like I have today. So Peter and I were talking about growing up on the hill, and we were telling him that when we grew up on the hill that all the kids in the neighborhood got either Pot Hill or PH tattooed on them. And he goes, "You did?" And I go, "Yeah, we got it." And he snapped out the camera, and we both have it on. I actually have University of Potrero on my back also. And that's my mom and my son Dylan in the backyard on Easter Sunday one year. He's 17 now, that's an old picture. And there's just some more of our family. We got Joe's daughter, Katie, my son Dylan, my sister Beth, and my brother's son Joe. And Sophia, are you here tonight? Where's Sophia? Where is she? There she is. There's Sophia. And then she's generation number 7. And when I was putting this together, I just didn't get her in the picture, so I knew she would be here tonight, and she's very special to us. And there's my sister Beth, myself, and Joe, minus my brother Mark that lives in Kailua, Hawaii, with his 3 kids, who's not in that picture right now either. And this is all of our family, my dad, my brothers, grandchildren, wives, my wife Nancy on the far right there, and Vicky in the center, and Ramsey, and everyone's in there, my dad. And we're missing Joe's oldest son, Robert, and his wife Monica, and their 2 little girls, and Sophia. Other than that, that would be our whole family. And I guess the theme, like talking about our family in 811 Rhode Island Street, and talking to my mom and everyone else, is our family for generations has got together for Sunday night dinners around the dining room table. And when I think of growing up on Potrero Hill with my immediate family, it was the times that we spent in the dining room, singing songs, eating together, cleaning up, cooking, making pidishki with mom, and just having good family time together. And she tore down the house and built up 5 or 6 years ago, and it's a different house. It's not that same house with the same dining room table that we grew up in. It's beautiful. It has a nice view, and my mom, we still go see her and stuff, but I still have the memories of the old house at 811 and all those family dinners, and we were really, really lucky to have my mom as our leader in our family.
So all in all, 6 generations.
Well, my grandchildren are 6 generations, but they have not lived on the hill. So there were 5 living on the hill.
5 living on the hill, but then they all still come to your house.
They do.
The traditions,
The
7
traditions
generations.
are on the hill.
My grandkids.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
So do you continue any traditions that come from the Moluccan community in terms of foods and?
Absolutely. I do cook all the Russian foods.
Piroshki, I heard.
I do.
Pidishki,
Pidishki,
borscht, pidi match, lipsi.
And still have Sunday dinners?
No, once the house got torn down and the new house got built, it wasn't the same. And I had a huge dining room table that accommodated my whole large family and their family. And there's not room for that big table any longer. But we still do holidays. They still come to my house and I do the cooking and
Games.
yeah.
So does anyone want to ask any questions about what was going on in this hill during these 7 generations? Yes.
Have you noticed the Russian population shrinking on the hill, with some of the old-timers still here, going to the same church?
There are some still here, but absolutely is shrinking. The Russian community is shrinking.
Yeah. Have you been recently inside the Molokan church?
No, not recently.
We're Irish Catholic.
No.
Your Irish, the family is Irish.
Yes.
Joe Keegan will dig it.
Yes.
Was there a picture of it, the Pastor Kennedy photo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
And not in that photo.
there
no.
are words in our lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, being on top of the hill, how did you get up there? Was it out? That was all dirt, right? You climbed those dirt, those hills to get up to the top of 20th?
Well, my grandparents and great-grandparents had to walk up the hill. There was not any public transportation. There was a streetcar that ran down like on 17th Street or down at the bottom of the hill. So they would walk down to 17th and get up.
It was all dirt probably, not that.
Yeah, and then, you know, the 53 was around for a very long time also.
Jimmy, there was a cable or a streetcar that
Can't
went
hear
up.
you.
There was a streetcar that went up Wisconsin Street also off of 20, that went up the hill.
Streetcar that went up Wisconsin.
That street used to be brick. And
That
they
went up
tore the-
Wis-
they tore the rails of the Twin-
I don't know about that.
Yes, ma'am.
It's 7 to 4 Giants.
7 to 4 times. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joan. Thank you for sharing your family with us, and thank you for all the, for so many years. Thank you. Can't have a better break than that. Thanks very much. Thank you for sharing your family with us. Thanks for the history. Go Giants.